Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the HR Leaders Podcast, the show where we explore the future of work with industry experts and HR executives from the world's leading global brands. It's our first podcast of 2020. We're here and we have a special guest for you guys. We're joined by Pierre-Henri CHUET. I probably pronounced that really wrong, Pierre, but I've tried my best. Who's a former fighter pilot, speaker, author, and stroke survivor. Welcome to the show, Pierre. How are you?
Thank you very much. Very well. Thanks. Happy New Year.
Fantastic. Where are you tuning in from? It's like you're a news reporter today, coming in, giving us some live.
Exactly. We're live from Provence in the south of France, next to Aix-en-Provence.
Oh, you're making me feel bad. Outside, it's just pouring down with rain, horrible weather, and I log on and see you there. So you're making me very jealous.
It's pretty nice. But I think we have some rain coming in tomorrow, so I'm going to brag about the weather today, but you won't hear about me tomorrow.
Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, sort of your background, your experience, sort of journey to where we are today.
Sure. So I'm French and Canadian. I'm dual citizen, and I grew up in France. My first school was in the UK. My dad was in the Air Force, and he was an instructor in the Royal Air Force for a while. So I grew up a little bit north of York, and then I moved back to France and joined the French Navy to fly as a fighter pilot. So I got 13 years in the service, and I left the service 2 years ago. After 9 years in operational squadrons, flying from the aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle on jets like Super Étendard or Rafale, and a combat tour in Iraq. And I joined Air Canada to fly as a Boeing 737 MAX pilot. And right after all my qualifications, I got a stroke at age of 31, and I was forbidden to fly for a year. So during that time off, I basically stepped back from aviation a little bit and started basically thinking at what's make aviation that efficient. I started getting into keynotes and consulting, and now I started a business in the UK. It's based in London. It's called the Mach 3 Management, and we basically adapt all the aviation methods to help people keep up with the rate of change, the exponential world we live in. I'm a happy man now. I live in south of France, but I travel around the world, a lot in North America too, and I've never been happier. So stroke can be a good thing sometimes.
Obviously, congratulations for everything, and obviously great that you're fit and felt well now. For everyone listening, we did think about doing the LinkedIn Live show from a fighter jet, but we weren't going to get signal.
Exactly.
So what are we going to be talking about today?
So today, basically, we're going to be talking about the adaptation of the very best of the aviation method you can use in your everyday life or as a manager in a corporate world.
Fantastic. Well, where do you start when you meet with organizations and work with them? And I'm fascinated by this. I get so many emails that when you messaged in and was talking about the work you're doing and how you adapt the aviation methods in the corporate world and leadership, it was just something that really jumped out to me that I thought I have to share this with our audience. So during your time off, I know there's a lot of acronyms. You guys love a good acronym in there, so I'm having to keep up with all the acronyms. But where do you start? Where do you start when you work with these organizations?
Usually what we start is we try to make people understand what the world they live in. Because basically, I'm sure you've heard, we live in an exponential world, so everything is going faster and faster, but people don't realize that our brains are designed to think in a linear way, not in an exponential way. So I got a quick exercise if you want to try it. Ready?
Do it.
Want to do some math in Publix? Okay. So imagine, let's say you have your nephew that give you a call and he tells you, hey, I've been offered a job. I just succeeded in a job interview, and they offer me 2 different packages. Mm-hmm. First package would be like they want to pay me £100 a day, and every day throughout the 49 days of the contract, they're going to add £100. So first day they're going to pay me 100. Second day they're going to pay me 200. Third day 300, and so on. Uh-huh. And package number B, they're going to pay me 1 cent first day, and then they're going to double it every day. So second day I'm going to be paid at 2 cents. Third day, I'm going to be paid 4 cents. And first week, I'm going to make £1.27. Would you take package A or B?
The first one.
First one, package A. So package A is going to give you £122,000 after 49 days. Mm-hmm. Package B is a good one to take.
Why? What did I miss?
So basically, package B is going to be bigger, but what's your rough estimate? What do you think? Do you think package B now that you know it's package B, do you think it's like 2 times more, 3 times more?
I have no idea. More? I feel like I have to get my calculator right now. I'm like, what have I missed?
Well, 70% of people select package A, mm-hmm. and then people that selected package B, which is a good one, they say, oh, it must be like 10 times or 100 times more. Mm-hmm. But the good answer is if you take package B, so 1 cent initially is then doubled every day, it's going to be 49.9, so 49.9 million times more than package A. You can do the math. It's 45.9 million times more. And I asked this question to like 4,000 people so far. Nobody ever found the answer. But where I'm getting at is you just prove to yourself your brain thinks in a linear way, not in an exponential way. Why? Because 100 plus 100 plus 100 is linear, and the other one is exponential. And what is happening right now around us, just look, I'm using a smartphone right now, is there are some laws around us that called Moore's law, Crider's law, stuff like that, that basically states that CPU, the power of your phone or the power of your computer, doubles every 13 months. The storage capacity of your computer or your phone doubles every 18 months. The communication with band's capacity doubles every 9 months. We're talking about doubling every time. So it's exponential. Yeah. And if you look at the rate of progress, initially it was slow, but right now we're in the last weeks. Basically, it's going extremely fast. And the rate of change is going extremely fast. That's why now in HR and everything, we say, hey, in 5 to 10 years, there's going to be like 60% of new jobs or jobs that haven't been created. Because it's just starting. It's going to get faster and faster and faster. And aviation, basically in 1947, when we broke the sound barrier with Chuck Yeager, we changed the law of physics around the aircraft. There are different laws of physics to fly when you're subsonic and supersonic. So 70 years ago, as pilots, we faced basically a new world, an exponential world, and we had to adapt. And now we have more than 7 decades of experience in this exponential world, knowing we're working in one. Mm-hmm. And what I want to do now with the corporate world and with people is basically sharing all the best practices, all the lessons we learned through accidents in the last 70 years, and now you can take advantage of it in a world that is going to get faster and faster and faster.
Fantastic. Definitely great analogy to put it into context. When you was thinking about relating this back to the corporate world, what are the main strategies that you adapted from flying in the Air Force? It's
mostly around the continuous improvement philosophy. So when you're surrounded by a world that is going extremely fast, you can't just wait to meet your boss every year to debrief how you handle your job during that day, all that stuff. It's not regular enough. If you look at aviation and naval aviation, what we do, we're basically debriefing 1 to 3 times a day. After every single mission, you're going to debrief. So just imagine you're meeting 4 different clients every day with your team. You're going to do 4 small debriefings every day. It doesn't have to be long, but basically it's going to address one key area. It's going to be, what could we have done better? If we have the exact same meeting, let's say tomorrow, next year, or this afternoon, what are we going to change? It's a mindset. And understanding that mindset, basically what you do is you start using your brain in a slightly different way. So basically you light up an area of your brain that is going to be used as a big data recorder, just like as a hard drive. And what you want it to do is to all the time look at what you're saying, what you're doing, the way you're doing it. And every time your brain detects something interesting, it's going to like put a small tick and say, oh, maybe that's not the best thing we could have said, or we should change this or that. And then when you're going to debrief with your team a couple hours later, you're going to basically go back to those bookmarks and say, oh yeah, I got a couple points I want to share with you during the debrief. Bam, 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 bam. And it's just a routine in your brain. It's something you do automatically without even knowing, and enable you to basically track yourself and improve extremely fast. And that's how basically we take a guy out of high school at 18 years old and at 22, 23 can fly jets on its own. It's just like we use this process of continuous improvement all the time.
What is that process? We spoke about that on our first call. Is it Grail, if I remember correctly? Can you explain that to everyone? Because you have the same process for every single debrief that you follow step by step, and I think it's very transferable.
Exactly. So once you took the habit of watching yourself doing that stuff all the time, then you're going to do the debriefing, and the debriefing is going to follow a method. So this method is, as you said, Grail, Graile. And basically what you want to do is you want to apply this method every single time. And G stands for gradeless. So doing a debriefing, it's like a role play. You do it in a room, you close the door, and now there is no hierarchy anymore. In the fighter pilot community in the US, we have ranks on the shoulders, and we're going to remove the ranks to visibly show everyone there is no hierarchy during that debrief. Because if there is hierarchy during that debrief, the youngest guy is not going to share as much. He's going to be afraid to be judged, or he's going to be afraid for his job. He's not going to be sharing as much. And now imagine when we fly single seats aircraft, there is only so much I can know as an instructor on the other aircraft. Like I see my wingman, but I don't know what's happening in his cockpit. And if he doesn't share during the debrief, I cannot help him improve. And maybe we're going to realize in comeback that he wasn't doing the good thing for years. So it's very important for him to feel safe to share. That's why the debriefing should be gradeless. And to make it even more efficient, we do it nameless. So we use call signs, or we use your job title. Like, it's not Pierre debriefing with Antoine. It's mission commander debriefing with navigation officer. We're talking not between human beings. We're talking between professionals. I'm not judging you. I'm not judging your character. I'm not judging who you are. I'm judging basically the professional functions that was displayed during this 1 hour mission or 2-day mission or 3-day event. The big difference is, as a human being, as a professional, you're okay to change and adapt for your company and your job position, but you might be, and you don't have to be actually, okay to change as a human being, who you really are. So it's very two different stuff, and something we understood in the Navy, and we address it very specifically. And under no circumstances should you debrief someone for who he is, but you should only address a professional. So that's a G. That's a gradeless and nameless. The R is results. To debrief, you need objectives. To achieve performance, you need objectives. And first thing you want to look at is, hey, did we reach our goals? It's very important for fighter aircraft because you want to be able to tell the chain of command, hey, we achieved the mission or we didn't. Maybe you shouldn't send more troops, stuff like that. So that's why we look at the results right away. And after that, we're going to the A. A is analyze. So we're going to analyze everything from the beginning of the mission to the end. Also, we're going to ask ourselves, was the team sufficiently trained? Was the training good enough? Were our professional standards high enough to achieve the mission? Should we maybe tell the training department we should change something or adapt, like the type of contract change, the tactic change? Everything evolves all the time. So it's our role as operational guys to pass on the information. And then we're going to look at L is lessons learned. What did this specific mission teach us? And when you do it on a regular basis, basically after a mission, you have 1 to 2 lessons learned, not more. Like basically just 1 or 2 key points you want to remember for sure. And if, let's say, in 2 months, you want to think about this meeting you had, you're going to remember those 2 things for sure. And those 2 things, because they're important, you want to exchange them with the rest of your community, with the rest of your business. And back in the days, during the Battle of Britain, during World War II, they would exchange at the bar, drinking stuff. So we used to do it in the military, but some still do. But nowadays, with all the paperwork we have to do and everything, we don't tend to have enough time. So now we use big data and we use like Excel files, stuff like that, and we put keywords in so that when you have a mission, let's say 2 weeks after, you're going to type in, hey, I might see MiG-29s. It's a type of Russian aircraft. So you type in MiG-29 and you see every single lessons learned that involve MiG-29s. And now you can basically use that experience so you won't be doing the same mistakes ever again.
And am I right in saying that you have a particular time frame that when you land to when you have to debrief as well?
Absolutely. The mission is finished when the lessons learned are identified and put in the system to be shared with the rest of the community.
Fantastic. And didn't you say before, though, you have such a small window in terms of takeoff and landing? The schedule is like precise.
We basically have a lot of constraints when we fly from aircraft carriers because our small aircraft carrier basically is too small for us to take off and land at the same time. So basically what we strive for, even after 8 hours over Iraq, is we're trying to land at plus or minus 2 seconds. That's what we're aiming for.
Yeah, that's the point I was getting to.
Yes.
You're operating within a 2-second window.
My last mission in the French Navy, I landed after was 160 minutes of flight time, and I landed at the very precise second.
You landed on the second.
I landed on the second. Actually, I've got GoPro footage of myself landing, and you see me looking at the watch, and then I'm like celebrating in the cockpit, like yeah.
Obviously, we know why it's important in the Navy. Obviously, lives are on the line in many cases, right? But why is that important in business?
It is important in the Navy, but also in business, because a lot of people say you have to lead by example. But when you're like a manager in charge of other people, you don't have the same day-to-day job. You don't have the same stuff to do. How could you lead by example? How could you inspire them if you have a very specific job and they can't really relate to what you're doing, or they don't know exactly what you're doing? So what we realize on an aircraft carrier, and an aircraft carrier is about 2,000 people, you only have about 20 to 30 fighter pilots, and you only have 10 guys flying into enemy territory every day. So how can you inspire other people to do their job correctly? And we realize that if you are very rigid on how you work your timings on your timeline, if you show extremely precise professionalism on the way you handle the timings, it's going to inspire everyone. And if you say, today we're going to start preparing the mission at 10:00 and everybody shows up at 10:00, it's the first step of success for the mission. And everyone can relate. And then you tell people, hey guys, we'll be done at 10:15. At 10:15:00, you're done. You just showed and inspired everyone. You just demonstrated it's possible. And then all the other people in the chain of commands are going to be able to do the same. And it's going to lead toward more precision, less time wasted. It's going to lead toward less anxiety at work, because especially in the business world, if you tell people, hey, we'll be finished at 5, and they have children to pick up, they have other phone calls, emails to send, and your briefing finishes at 5:20, during those 20 extra minutes, they're going to have anxiety, they're going to be pissed, they won't be listening anymore because they have other stuff to do, and it's just bad for everyone. So basically, by inspiring people to maintain this very rigid timeline, you just enable everyone to perform much better. And that's what we use in naval aviation, and that's why also it can be used in the corporate world.
Well, that leads on to the discussion we had before around leadership versus followership.
So have you seen the movie Top Gun?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So
a long time ago.
You know who Maverick is? Tom Cruise in the movie. So what most people don't understand is that in the movie, Maverick is not the leader of the flight. So we never fly alone. We never go to combat alone. And the reason why there are 2 aircraft is because alone, you cannot see everything. Like right now, I'm looking in front of me. I don't see what's happening in my back. And on a regular basis, what we do is we look at our friendly aircraft, that's what we call our wingman, and we can do what we say clear is 6 o'clock. By looking at him, we can check there is nothing coming behind him, and basically his area of vulnerability is checked. There is nothing there. So we can basically work together as a team. And so we have leaders and we have wingmans. And Maverick is a wingman. Basically his job is to support his leader and make sure his leader achieves his objectives. And that's what we call followership in the military. It's basically understanding that your role as a follower is to make sure your leader achieves his goal. Because if he makes it, you're going to make your goal, because your goal is to support your leader.
I love that. And again, great analogies, because you look at any success in business as well, it's always the team behind the individual that got them to success many times, right? Let's talk about anxiety, because obviously we're living in this VUCA world that we're in right now. A lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty. Could you talk about how you use anxiety as a way to prepare for a stressful event?
So a lot of people tend to think that their anxiety is actually stress. So stress is really what happens when you're facing a stressful event. Like if you stress a material, you're applying pressure on it. And we realize in the military and in aviation that you're going to be stressed whatever happens. Let's say you're going to be flying a combat missions, things are going to happen, you're going to be stressed. How do you manage to perform well under stress? Basically, you prepare in advance. And the road towards a stressful event is usually where the anxiety builds. You know you're going to be stressed. You don't know exactly how or when. So it creates some anxiety, and a lot of people have issues dealing with that anxiety. So what we do, we use that anxiety as a fuel to prepare ourselves to be more efficient when the stressful event arises. And a good way of looking at it is, as we said earlier, I'm Canadian. So imagine you live in the Rocky Mountains and it has been snowing during the winter, like every year. And spring is coming. You know the snow is going to melt. That's for sure. So you know all the snow is going to melt. It's going to create water, and the water is going to pour down the mountain and might basically create a flooding in the valley. See the snow and all the water as your anxiety, and what you want to do is you want to turn all this water pouring down the mountain as fuel. And how do you do that? You basically create a river, and you steer that river toward a dam, and then out of that dam you extract energy. And now you're going to be using all that energy coming from the water pouring down the mountain as fuel to prepare yourself better and to be proactive and more in control of your surroundings, so that when the stressful event shows up, at least you're prepared and you had enough energy to prepare. So you don't use anxiety to destroy you, but you use anxiety at your advantage and you make something out of it.
So you're almost kind of changing what anxiety really means. So you're looking at anxiety as a positive almost, of how do I harness this anxiety and turn it into energy, into positivity, and to fuel results.
Once you try it, there is no going back. I mean, it's extremely. It takes discipline. To be honest, it takes discipline. And a lot of people usually argue, oh yeah, so you were in the military, so you've got discipline. Or people that join the military, they have like a DNA that is more disciplined than the other people. So I ask those people, okay, do you drive a car? And most of them say, yes, I do drive a car. And does it take you a lot of brain power or energy to stop at a red light or a stop sign? Basically, it doesn't require any energy for you to stop at a stop sign or at a red light. Basically, turning anxiety into energy to fuel is basically the same thing. Or debriefing on a regular basis is the same thing. You basically want to wire yourself into just doing it almost subconsciously. So you just do it on an automatic mode and it doesn't require any additional brain power. That's basically what you want to be striving at. And it's achievable pretty fast.
One of the other things that I wanted to touch upon as well is in terms of how we can manage complex tasks, because that's something you guys have to do in the aircraft. So how do you break down complex tasks into smaller, more manageable tasks?
So basically, when we go through the pilot curriculum, we go through what we call formation flying training. So I'm sure you've seen the red arrows before. Yep. So you have all these aircraft flying one next to the other. Mm-hmm. So we basically had two aircraft flying one next to the other. And to be able to fly formation and do loops and all that stuff one next to the other, basically you have to apply a technique, a method. You don't try to multitask. So that's two jets. So that's the leader, that's the wingman, and basically you want the wingman to stay always at the same position. So to be able to be always at the same position, what you're going to do is first you're going to make sure you're at the good vertical position. That's the first thing you want to settle. Good vertical position. Then you want to be at the good horizontal position. And then you want to be at the good lateral position. To be able to fly formation, you have to be able to do those three tasks one after the other in a loop. Mm-hmm. And this philosophy, this methodology, we use it also for bigger events. Let's say you're going to be doing your first combat mission. It's an 8-hour mission. You're going to break stuff down because it's too much for your brain to cope with. You're like 25 and they tell you, hey, tomorrow morning you're going to be doing your first mission. If you screw up, basically like allied troops are going to get killed. So you have to deliver. You have to make sure you do your job correctly. So to be able to be efficient, what we're doing is we break it down. So, okay, so tomorrow morning I'm going to be preparing the mission, showing up at time, preparing the mission. And then I'm going to get dressed for the mission. Then we're going to brief. Then I'm going to start the engines. I'm going to take off. Then I'm going to do my air-to-air refueling. I'm going to arrive on station, checking, and you break every single step down.
Do you have that written down? Do you have it literally every single one that's written down, or is it just all mental?
Yes. Usually to prepare your brain before, you're going to write everything down with like bullet points. And then you're going to go over them and you're going to say, okay, so how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And all that stuff. And then basically just like bullet points. And then basically for your brain, you're like shifting from one bullet point to the other. And you remember I talked about having like this big data recorder in your brain. What we're going to do is we're going to take advantage of every time we move from one bullet point to the other. We're going to ask ourselves, we're going to basically auto-debrief ourselves. Hey, how did I just perform the task? Am I still aligned with the objectives? And did my short-term, medium-term, and long-term objective change? Should I change something or should I adapt something from what I just learned, what I just did, the way I just performed? And why it's important is because sometimes you're not at 100%. Like some mornings you wake up and you're like, maybe 60% of what you usually are. So maybe you computed some like margins or stuff like that, or you had some objectives for your day, and you realize very fast that, hey, it's not going to be possible. I choose to change, or I should report to my chain of command or my team, hey guys, today I won't be able to do that. And the sooner you detect it, the sooner you can pass on the information, and the sooner you can be replaced, or you can have like reinforcement coming in, stuff like that. So
is that what you mean when you say in your work task saturation? Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah. So basically, you have a workload. So you basically have when you're not doing much, your workload is extremely low, and when you basically are doing a lot, your workload is too high. What you want to do is you want to maintain within your comfort zone. You want to maintain a decent workload, and that workload is going to change throughout the day or the mission. When you're showing up at work, usually, I mean, your workload is at like a continuous, it's more like a heartbeat, basically. Stuff are going to happen, it's going to go up, it's going to go down. It's all about understanding where your limits are to make sure you maintain in a highly performance zone. If your workload is too low, you're not going to be productive. And if your workload is too high, you're going to get, as you said, task saturated. And the first thing that's going to happen when you're task saturated is basically all your communication skills are going to drop. You won't be able to listen as efficiently. You won't be able to express yourself as efficiently. And it's going to basically create some sort of big snowballs that's going to grow bigger and bigger because you won't be interacting with your team efficiently, and you won't be able to pass on good information. And in the end, it's just going to put your workload bigger and bigger and bigger. And in aviation, it leads to crash usually because you start things, small details, and one after the other, it can lead into mistakes.
Yeah, and as you said before, just to clarify, how do you kind of self-identify that you're in that situation where you're doing too much or too little? Is there a process you have in place of how
yes.
you?
Basically, because your bullet points come one after the other extremely fast. Every time you hit a new bullet point, as we said, you debrief. You step back a little bit.
Oh, so you debrief after every bullet point?
So you debrief yourself in your brain, like so.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
After every single small bullet point, you just ask yourself, oh, how did I just perform? And what happens is when you're task saturated, do you know what you forget to do?
Debrief.
Exactly. And basically, after 3 or 4 skip debrief, usually in your brain, you're like, hey, I haven't debriefed myself.
I haven't debriefed in a while.
Hey, guess what? There is a reason for it.
Yeah.
So and it takes a while to realize it. It's better to have that process because if you have a lot of bullet points, you're going to realize it after a couple of minutes, and you're going to be, oh, I'm not heading in the good direction. So now what you're going to do is you're reducing your workload. You're forced your workload down, and from that you can basically regain situational awareness.
Anything else we're missing here? Because I think we've gone through quite a lot of the areas. What are some of the other things that you talk about when you're working with clients?
We usually work about the different leadership styles. We talk about how you basically the situation is going to influence the leadership style of the leader. And what we use in commercial aviation is we found out that there are 4 different leadership styles, depending on if you're basically centered on the mission success, or more centered on human well-being. And those 4 styles are what we call in French laissez-faire, so let do. Basically, you give a task to one of your wingmen, and okay, I trust you to do it, do it. That's what we call laissez-faire. Another one will be if you are centered on the well-being of your guys, but you don't really care about the mission. It's what we call the Club Med. It's the name of a French resort. Maybe you've heard about it. It's good from time to time. It's not usually what we use in combat, but we use it during a port call when we stop in port and we go in bars. It's more like a Club Med style, but it's still a leadership style. When people think about the military, they think a full metal jacket, and it's more like a autocratic style. So if there is a boss who says it's white, it means it's white. That's it. And what we usually use in the corporate world, or what we use all the time in the commercial aircraft, is the democratic style, where basically use a horizontal hierarchy and you want everybody to speak up. Something we use in Canada, there's a lot of turnover in the crew. Like Air Canada, we're 4,500 employees, and it's unlikely you're going to fly twice with the same crew.
I didn't realize that. I thought the crews always fly together.
Small companies they do, but big companies you don't know the guys. So let's say you do a Boeing 737 flight. You show up in the morning for your day of work, and 45 minutes before takeoff, you're going to meet the crew. A technique that is used by some captains that is very, very efficient is basically showing some witness to the co-pilot. So you show up, you go in the cockpit, you start briefing, and right at the beginning, so you introduce yourself to your crew, and you tell your co-pilot, I didn't sleep well, one of my kids was sick, I'm not doing that good, so I'm fit to fly, no worries, but if there is anything that you see that you doesn't like, please speak up right away. You show some vulnerability, some weakness, you show him you're only a human being, and you find sometimes fake reasons to show that, so that you basically use your co-pilot and your crew empathy, and you make sure they're going to speak up as soon as they speak.
Very intentional. Yeah.
Extremely efficient to basically break down this hierarchy barrier and sometimes this fear of speaking up. And in aviation, your co-pilot to refrain from speaking up when you see something he doesn't like. As a matter of fact, we realize that 70% of crashes happen when it's the captain flying the aircraft, not the co-pilot. Because when the captain is flying the aircraft, he basically have less situation awareness because he's like busy flying, and the co-pilot won't speak up as soon as he could because it's a captain flying, so the captain must know what he's doing.
Yeah.
And that's why we use a technique for at Air Canada. It's very, very efficient, and we tend usually really to try to keep it as horizontal as possible. But let's say something happens, like you take off, you use both engines, just like in 2009 on the Hudson with maybe you've seen the movie Sully. Mm-hmm. They took off from LaGuardia. They lost both engines. They used to be in the cockpit in a democratic style, and because of this emergency, now the captain is switching to autocratic style. So there is no time to discuss. The captain has to take decisions. So at that point, the captain takes decision, doesn't ask his crew what they think. He decides, he gives orders, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And what makes a silly ditching work is that the co-pilot understood his role as a follower in an autocratic environment. Mm-hmm. He didn't try to intervene when he shouldn't. So he basically keep his mouth shut, try to help when he could. When he was asked a question, he was trying to create additional value, saying, hey, maybe we could do that, but he won't be interrupting the thought process of the captain for too long. It's very, very important to understand those different styles and how your role as a leader changes depending on the style, but more important when you're a follower, a wingman, how basically you need to change your communication style with your leader to be able to be the best supportive wingman possible.
Love it. Well, Pierre, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Before we leave here, if there's sort of one passing piece of advice you could give to everyone, what would that be? And also, what's the best way for people to connect with you if they want to reach out, learn more about your work?
Sure. Best piece of advice I can give you is you don't have to be flying a 100 million aircraft to apply those methods. Every morning when you wake up, you're in control of your own single seat. Basically yourself, you're in control of your own aircraft. And you can apply this piloting command philosophy, methodology, and as we discussed, mindset to max perform in our exponential world. So it's really, you don't have to be a pilot. It's really a mindset issue. And if you want to get in touch, I'm on LinkedIn, Pierre-Henri, or I've got a website, debrief.org. And I wrote a book that explains a little bit all those methods called Debrief on Amazon.
And I know one thing I'm excited about for everyone listening, you also do this, your work and your training with the VR headsets, and you put people, people inside the jet, right? And put them under those high stress situations. And also they get to fly with their leaders and their team, right? In squadrons, in virtual reality. If that doesn't entice you, I don't know what else will. So I'm definitely looking forward to meeting up with you and having a go of that with my team.
Sure. With pleasure. With pleasure.
Fantastic. Well, look, thanks for joining us. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. If you're new to the podcast, you can head over to hrdleaders.com/subscribe, and you can subscribe on any of the platforms out there, your favorite platform. Apart from that, I'll let you get on with the rest of your day, Pierre, and I wish you all the best until we next week.
Thank you very much. Fly safe.
See you later.
Thank you very much.
See you later. Bye.